Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This guy's done so much in his life so far. And some of it is, if not all of it, is pretty amazing. He's an architect in the New York City metro area, very renowned when it comes to commercial architecture, residential, designing homes, buildings, workspaces, living spaces. But he also had a career as a tennis pro before any of that architecture stuff began. He's back with us. Some amazing stories from the world of tennis. John Riggio is back on the program. Hey, John, how you doing?
Good. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Some of the names that you've mentioned before, Ross Perot, you played on his tennis team. Hillary Clinton served as your attorney back then, and we're talking in the 80s when you were in your low 20s. But so much more. Even, I mean, names like Richard Branson, which you mentioned before we even jumped into this, the guy from Virgin Airlines, Virgin everything, Virgin Records. How are you connected to Richard Branson back then?
Yes, originally I know Richard Branson through some friends because Richard Branson, they used to live in the same school district when I was growing up in Jericho.
Wow.
In Jericho, there's a part of the school district goes to very exclusive areas. So through one of my friends, I was over their house just as a usual visit, and one of their friends is Richard Branson. So that's how I ended up getting to meet Richard Branson, introduce myself to Richard Branson.
So I just want to tell everybody, when you say Jericho, it's Jericho, Long Island, New York. And I had no idea he was in the New York area. When I think of Richard Branson, I just think of the UK. That's where he's from. I had no idea that he lived in the New York area or even in the United States. Wow.
Yes, he used to live right in my same school district for a while, and
no idea.
Yes, and from the some of the friends I had in school, I was able to meet him. You know, he was very friendly. He talked to me, taught me a lot of things, and he knew all about things like the things with the Olympic gymnastics, some tennis, and things like that about me. And he even knew the thing about things with piloting an airplane. So he already knew all those things about me. And what happened was I was able to contact his company at the time, like in 1987, when I had talked to Boris Becker and Rita Skerlaitis about getting some sponsors to really keep me playing at the tennis center and moving forward. And what I did was I called his company. I called the Richard Branson Company. They forwarded the word through their company, and they did give me some backing.
Wow.
They did give me some backing on the playing. And so that was really the initial big sponsor that was willing to back my tennis playing. And that really started a whole chain of people that were able to start investing into my playing. And from there, I was able to get a number of large investors. At that point in 87, between 1986 and 1987, my pro shop had closed. Patrick Mulrooney went into retirement, but I called the Prince Racket Company on my own anyway. So in like the middle of the summer of 86, I called the Prince Racket Company, and in fact, they did approve backing me also. So the Prince Racket Company tried to keep me on. They tried to help me.
Yeah.
And with this help, they also were gonna help fund some tournaments for me too. So when I was eventually able to get back onto the courts there at the tennis center, and I was able to start playing again, Prince did back me, and then I did start to get some help from Richard Branson's company, who has
I want to ask
air and everything like that.
I want to ask you, and years later, so you don't have to have an allegiance to any particular brand at this point, but I know you still play. What's your favorite racket? What company? Which one if you're going to walk into a store, where would you buy?
Right now, I've been using Dunlop.
Okay. All right. And I'm curious because in warmer weather. I'm trying to find an indoor place and I'm just, like a weekend tennis player, like once a month weekend tennis player. Why Dunlop? Because I was looking to buy a new racket and I always wondered what would be the best brand or why they're better. I have
Well,
no idea.
other than Dunlop is willing to still back my tennis, they are a very good brand because their rackets are very similar to a pro stock racket. The ones
Okay.
that you can buy yourself, you can go to a pro shop and buy them, and
Hmm.
they're also shaped in what they call precision shaped racket, and that is a
Hmm.
racket that I like to use, and it works really good. The tension is good. You go up to the maximum tension. So if you wanted to string a racket over 60 pounds, you can do that with the better Dunlop rackets. And
Fair enough.
so I think I'd like playing with the Dunlop racket. One thing about my racket that was a pro stock, in fact, it really wasn't a Dunlop racket. The racket I played with, it was really made by Babolat. So the pro stock racket that I last used at the end with the Japanese team was really a Babolat made pro stock. There's no way
I
for you to know it's a Babolat because there's no painting on it or anything.
I have no idea what that is. I never heard it. How do you say it again?
A Babolat.
So that is a racket manufacturer.
Yes, Babolat is now owned with just the Babolat
Oh,
racket. And
didn't even
they're
know.
known for very good strings too. They had the Babolat strings are very good strings.
Wow.
But the racket that I had, the Pro Stock, was also shaped very similar to a racket you would buy as a Dunlop. It was shaped in what they call precision type racket.
Yeah.
That I find the best racket. I think there's like the Babolat rackets they're selling now, like the Aero Pro and everything. That is shaped like what they call muscle maker racket. It's slightly different style of playing. The muscle maker is a different. It isn't really as accurate a hit as the precision style racket. So I usually like the precision style racket. So the Babolat racket I had was the precision style shape racket, and it was made very good, rigid frame. It didn't break.
Huh. No,
And
I had no idea. I figured I'd ask because you would know. And you walk into a store and you look to buy something. I'm clueless. I have no idea. So,
on another show, I'll have to show you a sample of some pro stock. I have some pro stock rackets
that'd be cool.
that aren't marked. I'll show them to you on the show. I'll have some of them, and I can show you a comparison of a couple rackets.
Wow. And when it comes to all of this, we've talked about records before, tennis records that you broke. Are there any that we haven't talked about yet?
Yes, I was trying to remember all the different ATP records I have. I had that one administrative record. I have about 10 ATP records. And one that I just remember was I had the highest percentage of winning the final match in a tournament. And so that is an important percentage because a lot of
Huh.
people, they're looking at you to win the tournament. They get to that big final game. And I only have lost like maybe once or twice in the last match of a tournament. If I get to the final match of the tournament, I'm probably going to win the tournament. And that was really big. That was something I was able to do from years of experience and playing, really concentrating on my game. And I think once I did lose the final match, and what happened is my sponsors received this large plate. It's this. I think if you would see on television, sometimes at the end of the match they show someone with a trophy and
Yes.
someone with a plate.
Yes.
So I did receive it, but that was very few times, maybe once or twice. But whenever I made it to the end match of the tournament, I was certain to win the whole thing. So I had the record for that too.
So is that really the case? If you win the last game, uh, in a match, you'll win the tournament. Typically, do I have that right?
Yes,
Huh.
that's correct.
Hmm.
I was almost certain to win the last match of the tournament. I was able to really play so confidently and win that when I got to the final match, it was pretty certain I was going to win the whole tournament. So
Why does it happen like that? Typically.
I don't know why, but it had to do with really years of moving up in the rankings slowly and continuing to improve my game. So by the time I get to the final match of the tournament, and my playing ability is also slightly better. I'm improving as I go along in each tournament.
Huh. It's mind-boggling that this is all taking place where you're barely what, 22, right around there.
Yes, yes. My playing was going starting sponsors at 9, and I was playing through the years of 24 and past there too.
Wow. Um, how about some of the other things that happened during that time? I know that there was money that you got for winning matches or tournaments. Anything that we didn't talk about in terms of numbers there?
Yeah, well, I think the well, was one number was $1,500, and I think $1,500 was like a number of like having your name listed in a publication. That was the amount of money back then. And it seemed to have kept going for a number of years too. It started like in 1985. Like Ivan Lendl and Bjorn Borg, they each took $1,500 from their credit card, and they paid like World Tennis Magazine to put an ad into the publication, and that's how much it cost. So they really took that money out of their pocket to pay for me, which was really good. I mean, that's just an indication that they really wanted to forward my career, and it was real dollars that they were spending.
Wow. Wow.
So yes.
So what did it look? Was it when you say an ad, like what did it look like in World Tennis Magazine?
When they usually it's just a name and a ranking number.
Gotcha. So what we're talking about is call it a mention in the magazine, just some visibility to raise up your credibility as a tennis player.
Yes, a lot of times they had a couple of things. One was an up and coming player advertisement in the U.S. Tennis Magazine, and they kept putting my listing in there as where it would just say that I was up and coming player, and very simply, so they would
Hmm.
see that I was up and coming player, would just maybe list my name, and that's about it. Very simple. That was a very simple advertisement, usually $1,500. And same thing with the listing was a name and a ranking number. Was the same idea. It was like $1,500 back then. So
I,
that
and I
those
just want to share with people, just remember, we're talking the 80s. So to get listed in a prominent magazine, that's a big deal. That's almost like, getting, oh, I don't know, quickly, 50,000 followers on Instagram, just like that. It's a, you know, it was big visibility back then, when we talk about print, and World Tennis Magazine was huge back then.
Yes, I think that was part of what I was calling an advertising game. And I think a lot of that really goes to really hiring someone who's really very experienced, like a publicist, hire a licensed publicist.
Sure.
He is supposed to handle all the copyrights with the name, uh, talk with the magazine. A lot of these names and numbers have to get approved through administrative uh, people in tennis and coaches in tennis, and then also it has to then go through with the public. So there's a whole complex thing of figuring out the advertising game and things like that. And I think one thing about my ranking numbers that I'd said on previous things, I think just to give some proof of what was going on with the ranking numbers was in '87, in the summer of '87. I was moving up to the rankings, getting up to the top rankings very quickly, and then Ivan Lendl had written on a piece of paper and showed me the piece of paper that my name is written on there as the number fourth player. And this is
Wow.
right before I was able to push ahead, getting some more notice with Tony Roach, and then making to the top spot with my bubble at Ali Pond. So I think that's like really the written proof that that group of players, they had written down number four. And it was, in fact, at that time, another player, Miloslav Mercier, also had the ranking number four. So more than one player could overlap the ranking at the same time. So that's where I was. And then I jumped ahead from there and had that tennis bubble at Ali Pond. So that is just an indication of where those numbers are coming from. They're not coming from a third party. They're really coming through the same ATP players that people have already heard about.
I want to ask you a question because I can relate to this in some ways. Back then, so I was doing radio. I I don't, yeah, I somewhat regret. I didn't take a lot of pictures. Like if I ran into a celebrity, I interviewed a celebrity, I was just doing my job. I didn't think of taking a picture. When we talk about your stuff back then, not a ton of pictures because I think you were doing what I was doing. You were so focused on playing tennis. I'm gonna get this done. I'm gonna win that match. That didn't take pictures. Didn't even think of it. And it wasn't the same then it is now. You pick up your phone, take a picture. It's super simple. You physically had to have a camera or somebody take that picture. Do you have that regret as well? Just not recording more of what you did back then?
Yeah, I think the whole thing with having a scrapbook on your own was one thing a lot of people were hinting at over the years.
Yeah.
I think relying that someone had taken my pictures, put them into Tennis Magazine, one of the other magazines, and then I could find them later isn't really like a guaranteed. You'd really have to keep a scrapbook from
A
the very
hundred
beginning.
percent. You're so right. Like I mean, back then in radio, we'd give away a trip to, the Bahamas, and it would go in a trade magazine like World Tennis Magazine. The flip side would be like a radio trade magazine, and there would be a picture of the disc jockey handing the trip over. I've done that. I didn't keep a scrapbook. Not a big deal, but just for yourself, it would have been nice, for me to have it and you as well. But you know what? I think we were both thinking the same thing, that you're focused on working, you have a goal to win and improve your game. So you didn't focus on doing those things like keeping records and scrapbooks.
Yes, I think one also interesting thing when I was talking about Prince tennis racket was originally Prince tennis racket was Prince tennis racket North America. It included the 50 states and Canada. So when I was originally playing with Prince, there was even though I had signed as the US player, the Prince racket had Canada was also sort of rooting for my playing too at the same time because their company included all of North America. So that was one interesting added point. And I think even today,
Mm.
some people that I meet might pick up on that I was really a player for when I was sponsored by Prince for all of North America. So that is another interesting thing that was happening too.
Wow. How about some other things going on back then? Anything that you recall? I know we hit a lot. I know you had I think her name was Delilah back then. That was a girl that you were with.
Yes. Now the story with Delilah, uh, what happens is some unfortunate things did take place because of the father, and the story is so unbelievable. I think it was so outrageous that I really wasn't going to say it, but maybe people can learn from this kind of story that the father seems to have really taken the fall. He ended up um, having Delilah. Um, he was really trying to sell her to someone he knows, and then because he was like I think he looked like a nice, neat guy. He was a graphic artist, but somehow he was involved with knowing someone who was like a drug dealer, and
Wow.
he was going to sell her to the drug dealer for $40,000 cash, and the whole thing came unraveled. The whole thing came unraveled when she told me because I still maintained friends with her, and she told me that she just had to move in with someone that was her father's friend into his house with the guy's parents, and she tells me that they have one or more, at least two or more kidnapped children in the basement,
Wow.
and immediately what I did was after I finished talking to her because they were threatening to have her involve herself with this whole thing with this crazy family. So she asked for help from me. So I called the authorities, and immediately they had to have the authorities raid the house. They raided the house immediately, and they were able to free the children in the basement. They arrested the whole family, and that helped Delilah. And I have one big problem. So I really came through to help her out.
Wow.
And I've known her for a long time. So what happened was, then after that, it wasn't over yet. I was being told that this type of people that her father had her involve herself with were not really like a calm type people. So what happened was it was suggested by myself that she should talk to this family the same way she would talk to me. And when she did, a guy he took out a machete and threatened to cut her head off. So that night, when no one was looking, she left the house and she never went back there and immediately got a divorce, never did anything with them anymore. And this was unbelievable. So now Delilah is back to normal as far as her not being harmed in a strange way. And but then what happened was over those years from like 1992 to 19 not 9 yes about 1992 to about like 1996, this whole thing with the Japan team kept going on. And when I finally was able to figure out the way to start to get into the Japan team in Hawaii, I went to Hawaii. I made an official appearance there. And so when I had told Delilah about that, unfortunately, she was so outraged against her father. She went to go confront the father, and I never saw her again.
Wow.
I never saw her again. I think whatever happened did not go over very well at all because unfortunately, like 6 months later, I was told reports that they might not be alive anymore. I mean, this was
I
really
didn't expect this.
unbelievable. Unfortunately, I was really told that yes, I was told that I didn't ever get physical proof of anything. They were no longer in that household anymore. That was living there anymore, and I never got any physical proof. But whatever happened, really was bad, and that's because since I knew Delilah since she was young, she always wanted to get married to me, and she had one thing about herself. Um, her and herself said that she had a game that her parents had to go along with her wishes because she was a young star. And then so when it came out after the Hawaii trip, she obviously had the proof against her father that the father had taken the fall, obviously, was lying, just could not come through for her at all.
Mm.
And then when something happened, she confronted the father, and I never saw them again. I do not know what happened. And that is what was the root cause was so she was directed from her own self, how
Uh,
much special that she should have a game that her parents had to go ahead with what she wanted, or she could not take it anymore. So I don't know what really happened, but I was told that her and her father were no longer alive at that point. I don't know what the real truth is, if
I,
somehow they are alive someplace, but I was told that they might have died.
what a direction that went in your life. I mean, here you are, you know, attaining greatness as a tennis player, and playing with some of the best in the entire world, and then dealing with that somebody that you befriended and you were close to her. Sorry to hear that that
Yes, I
happened,
think
but
I think what happened there was because she was like her own entertainer too. And I think this thing with the pro tennis with her and me getting married together and doing the whole thing with the tennis was really very high pressure for her.
yeah,
And she was living off of this for a long time. And I thought it was good that she liked this idea, but I think her the one flaw in her story was really her own little game that she had to play with the extensions that she if her parents didn't go along with she really wanted, that she really did not feel too good about it. So
yeah.
I don't know what happened, and this had started with her mother. Her mother once I went over there to go out on our usual meeting when we were much younger, and the mother said that no, she's doing her schoolwork, and what happened was I think her argument the next day with the mother was too much for the mother, You know,
Mm.
she had I think she had like a fight with the mother, and the
Wow.
mother in fact ended up lapsing to a coma, and then it took a little while, but then she had passed away after that. So that is like one incident that took place. So this thing with me and the light and the tennis was a high pressure thing for her,
For
and
sure.
but I think the one flaw was basing her future on her parents and me. That's
And
why
then,
putting her parents to come to Japan with me, come to Hawaii with me, that wasn't
yeah.
too good. And unfortunately, I even though I helped Iraq get out of a lot of problems like that, um, it was really what happened was, even though she was an entertainer, for instance, like when she was very young, I bailed her out of her clothing tab, you know, at the mall, like $250 clothing tab at the mall. So I was always helping her, getting her out of problems. But then I got that big problem with her with the children in the house that she was forced to move
Well,
into,
you
and
got to think of it this way. What a challenge, for her. It's almost like living a double life. We have a life with a guy who's a tennis pro, then her parents, if they don't approve, they may be jealous that you're providing this for her. And yeah, just crazy world to be in. We're out of time here. But wow.
yes, and I
Actually
think
went.
one interesting thing was at the Westbury. For some reason, she had a problem when I was explaining that she had a problem with the security that her coming over there, and she had to show proof
Mm.
that we were really together, engaged in a serious relationship, getting married, because I think they had a whole knowledge of people following sport players, which was very interesting. And I think it came up about something about her father was really the weak link in her this whole story. So they needed proof. So she had to present the security with a photograph of me and her together, like we're in a serious relationship, like a nice picture. And so
So you
her and
had
her
a
father.
picture, like we talked about
Yes,
that.
yes.
Um,
There is a picture that was submitted to the security there in Westbury with me and her together.
right.
We are like engaged to get married. So that is what was happening. So this whole thing was really very high pressure, very serious, and
Wow.
it really resulted in something really, really big happening at the end there. And so that's what happened. So then after that, instead of really just I really tried to continue on with the Japanese team. After that point, I still continued to talk to the Japanese contact, and it's still trying to figure out more ways to do things. The visit in Hawaii got me $10,000 credit, and they paid me cash for my travel expenses again. So
Wow.
the travel there didn't really cost me anything. I got a government trip, and then so I was there, and I did make an official appearance signing my name as Carlos Scipio. So
I
I think
remember
really
you
in
the
those
name. Yeah.
areas, I think in those areas of the world, my name is still Carlos Scipio. I think I really would have to contact with them, but I think in some areas, I think I might still even sign my name Carlos Scipio at this point. I think is one
Well,
interesting thing.
we have to change over to John Riggio now, present day, and press the pause button because we're out of time. But fascinating stories, with Richard Branson. Had no idea your connection with him and everybody else. Go to the website if you want to learn more about John and what he does in terms of architecture. There's also links to his tennis career as well at John Riggio, RIGGO.com. John, always great having you with us. Amazing stories and history, sports history. And I truly look forward next time we get a chance to get together.
Great. Thanks a lot, Steve. Good talking to you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.